Will your assets be increasing soon? That's today's question. Hi, I'm Sunny, and I have 4 piles you guys can choose from. From left to right, I have pile 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you need more time, you're more than welcome to pause the video and then select the pile or piles of your choice when you're ready. And I will start with the first pile. So remember, when I say assets, it's not specifically meant about financial assets. It can be, but it can also be assets in regards to maybe you, it's going to sound funny, but you maybe want to grow your body assets, right? Or maybe you want to grow your assets when it comes to your home possessions, or maybe you want to grow your assets when it comes to, you know, savings, or your value assets. There's many different interpretations, and I leave that wide open. So just putting that out there before I continue. So for pile number 1, it's going to be a yes or no format, by the way. You guys have the Ace of Cups reversed. So no, your assets will not be increasing, but that's more or less like in a time frame where, like, if you think your assets are going to be increasing soon, this is no. It would likely take time. It's not a no forever. It's just a momentary no within the energies around you. So keep that in mind, pile number 1. But this pile feels like the reason why it's no, it's because you're gonna have to kind of figure out what's kind of making you feel not so great about yourself. Maybe you're not really appreciating what you're offering to, maybe because I feel this pile is particularly focusing more on people outside of themselves and always giving to others and being that listening ear, that crying shoulder, that person who's not judgmental, but somehow you're not receiving that back, or you're not giving that back to yourself. So that's why your assets are not growing. It's because you're putting that block on you where you're not valuing yourself and your time and your effort, your creativity. That emotional space is kind of a little bit up and down. So when you start focusing on yourself a bit more, it's when your assets would likely increase, because you're not so tunnel vision about specific avenues you're looking at. Maybe it's the finance department for most people, but it just feels that when you start focusing on how can I make myself feel fulfilled and feel like I have a lot to give, not just to myself but to others at the same time, is when that will happen. But for the most part, this is more of a pile that you need to start focusing on yourself to really feel that back, like that love back, because I don't feel that you feel appreciated or loved or considered. Maybe that, like, your emotions are not considered enough in situations, or you're keeping a lot to yourself and you're just like hoarding that, and maybe you feel that's the reason why you're possibly, example, gaining more weight, because you're emotionally eating stuff, right? So that happened to us all. It happens to me too sometimes. And you're just like packing the extra calories, or maybe you're not moving a lot because you just don't want to put the effort because of your emotions. So when you start feeling more emotionally stable and realizing what's really the root ground of why you're not quite happy, or why you feel like you're repressed and no one's letting you express yourself, and putting yourself first, is when you realize that things can start turning a new leaf for you when it comes to positions of your assets increasing. So that can be it. But again, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So thank you, pile number 1. Pile number 2, this is the 4 of Pentacles upright. So this is a yes. Your assets will be increasing soon. And I feel for this pile, the specific assets that are going to be increasing are in regards to your money, in regards to your home. So maybe it's the fact that you have made a lot of renovations or changes, or you're moving into a bigger place, or you're moving into a place that it's going to bring you that revenue of, like, let's say I have a garden space where I can plant my own food, and I can wait. If I'm patient enough, I can wait and save money like that by not going to the grocery store and getting, by getting vegetables and fruits and spices that can be a little bit more costly with the time. Inflation has not been kind to everybody, so keep that in mind, that maybe that's why it's a good investment to, like, have that growing asset, or something that you feel that you've changed in your home, or what feels home to you, maybe your home family too. Maybe you feel that's growing, or maybe that's the fact that you are, I don't specifically feel that's the target for this, but maybe for some people you feel that you have an increase in people coming into your home to live with you, and you got to be more considerate of the fact that you have to be precise with where you invest your money in, right? So that can be in too. So people can come in and you have to be more picky about how much you you give out in help, or like just kids, maybe there's extra kids mouths to feed. I do think it's financial rewards too, where you get to be a little bit more in a savings mode, and it's mostly for yourself and for your home and for your family, that they get to appreciate it on a rainy day when you might not have that financial help. But it just feels like this is a positive yes for you, but it might not come right away. It might take some time, by the way. So keep that in mind, that you have to be patient with this pentacle energy. But kudos for you if you're working on your practicality and your savings plans. Pile number 3, you guys have a yes. This is the 8 of Cups upright. So for pile number 3, your financial, sorry. Why did I want to say that? Maybe that's something for you guys to consider too. But for this pile, your assets will be growing, and I think it's mainly when it comes to people, like social groups. Yes, your emotions can start finally clearing out, and I feel that you maybe are finding it easier to not hold on to emotions or like repressed feelings too. Maybe there's another pile that had a cup energy too, but differently. So this pile feels like you're walking away from something that was no longer helping you. It was kind of keeping you stagnant. Maybe it was a behavior, or maybe a person, or a circle of friends, or circle of family members. And it feels like this pile is finally ready to let go of let go of what's holding them back. So I do feel that you are more than ready already to kind of take that decision to walk away, because it wasn't serving you anymore. I think that you started feeling happier doing other stuff on your own, or doing other activities where you didn't rely on the people, for example, that you usually relied on, or trying to find that answer in the people you're usually going to. So I just feel that you learned to walk to greener pastures, and you just kind of like didn't even bother looking back, because what's the point? There's nobody there waiting for you, trying to hold you back, for example. Or if they are, like, they're kind of, messing with your mind, like your emotions particularly, because of that familiarity, it doesn't feel like it holds the same value and weight on you. So it feels like it's like freeing. This pile feels more freeing and liberated to walk away without the repercussions they usually get. So this is a positive yes when it comes to your assets. I think the assets that you would be increasing would be emotional assets that make you feel happier, assets in regards to creativity too. Maybe it's a venture, a plan, right? Like, let's say a venture plan, when it comes to things that you used to love that no longer make you happy. So maybe you used to love bird watching, for example, but it became a bit of a, not a hassle, but maybe not the greatest thing for you, because you had to be more patient, or you had to be out and about, like in temperamental weather, and you just didn't feel that great. So you learn to walk away from that hobby, and maybe you're focusing on a different hobby that feels more comfortable. The commodity of being maybe inside and not having to do so much walking or movement, or just waiting. Like, example, like you working on birdhouses, for example, like switching it up a bit. So you are increasing your assets, but it's going to be more so on the softer sides of things, emotional stuff, creative stuff. Anyone who's a better listener to, just investing yourself in nicer environments and more emotionally inclined friendships too, and people. So that's what I have for you. Next is pile number 4. You guys have the Hierophant upright. So for this pile, this is a yes. Your assets will be increasing soon, and it might have to do with higher learning, anything relating to contracts maybe. So you could have your pick in regards to contracts of career, or you could have your pick of partnerships when it comes to business partnerships. So it could also be, you could have your pick of people you are interested in who want to formalize a formal relationship with you. Keep in mind, several different paths can open for you when it comes to this pile. But I do feel that you are finally getting like the answer that I think for this pile, it feels a little bit more like one of the previous piles too, that there's certain key element of patience that I think you've been waiting for a while. This like maybe like a certain change or a certain person coming into your life, and you are increasing your assets because of this person, or because you're encompassing the Hierophant, where you're committing to something, you're committing to a partnership, you're committing to a goal, you're committing to a person, you're committing to yourself too. It doesn't always have to be somebody else. It can be you just committing to yourself, and maybe your health journey, or maybe you're committing to yourself to becoming more emotionally stable, or you're committing to yourself in regards to putting yourself first, and your needs first, or committing to maybe having a pet, simple things like that, or committing to having a child too, where you're like, look, this is going to be for the long run, and I'm committed to this. I'm gonna stick it through, and I'm not gonna let things just easily come in the way and ruin it for me, or just have obstacles kind of challenge me to where I don't want to live up to the potential that I could have it to. So I do feel for this pile, you are learning to be more how can I say, not advocating, more accessible to your needs and the needs of others, because you're committed to a goal. So maybe you can be helping people, or maybe you're committed to starting a program that you've always wanted to try, like a healthcare program where you are becoming a nurse, for example. I always use a nurse as an example. I should find other occupations to use as examples, but you're like, you have to learn the discipline of ethics, and the discipline of being emotionally connected to your patients, not just the technicalities, right, of like measurements and keeping track of stuff and like writing information. It's more so also your hospitality and your social touch, right? It could be you learn to be more compassionate with people too, or you learn to listen more to what they need, and like it just feels like maybe you become a bit more spiritual, or you marry that spirituality with your work, where you're like learning to know that this is what's going to work for you. Because if you don't put that emotional touch, if you don't put that higher divine power according to you, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like you're giving it all your best that you can, and you might not come from that place that you really want to come from. It doesn't feel like it's divine power. Maybe it could be that, or maybe you're actually committing to having a faith or something. It just feels like there's so many potentials. Maybe you're also committing to higher learning, to committing to higher education, or a person, like I said earlier. But regardless of what it is, it feels like your assets are growing, because it's going to be a long-term goal that's going to keep growing, but you might not see those results right away. I don't feel it's necessarily pentacle energy, but I do feel it's going to come sooner than you expected, but just not quite that soon. So keep in mind, I think this is more like a moral or a value kind of assets, maybe religious, but it just feels more like I'm giving you my word to continue, and I'll continue that. It's like a promise to yourself. It's a very different, it's more like not a verbal one, but it's more like something you thought of, and you're keeping that word to yourself, and you're keeping that word up, and you're going to commit to it. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it enough to like and subscribe and comment and share. It would help me out so much with my channel, and I hope you guys have a great day regardless of that. So thank you, and bye-bye.